Hey y'all, I'm back. Yay. Nothing personally has been going on. I just kind of ran out of steam, so I was like, I'm going to take a break from the pod. I'm going to take a break from podcasting, and now I'm back and I'm better. I think it feels better. I feel better about recording and stuff. So yeah, here I am, ready to yap. And you know what I want to talk about? I want to talk about The Walking Dead. So I'm going to try and be a little more structured. I'm trying. This is going to be specifically about Rick and Shane. Rick and Shane are just so interesting to me and always have been because we love best friends. We love a toxic relationship. We love obsession. I like, these are all things that are so interesting to me. So I want to talk about Rick and Shane. Lord, am I ready? So what started this is I got Netflix because Beyonce, duh. And I was like, well, while I have it, I might as well rewatch The Walking Dead. And I'm watching The Walking Dead. And, you know, I'm just like, kiki, so many inside jokes with my best friend, all of that. And then something stuck out to me. Rick and Shane were talking, and this is after Carl got shot. After Carl got shot, and Shane said to Rick something along the lines of, the strength that woman has. Why did I do the Rick voice? The strength that woman has, talking about Lori to Rick. And it made me think about Insecure when Molly told Issa, you don't even deserve Lawrence. And it just made me be like, Shane, you were never normal. That is such a... Just knowing him and Lori's relationship and being like, oh, your wife is so strong. Girl, get out of my face. Like, we're essentially like in-laws of some sort. Like, my wife is pregnant with your baby. Get out of my face. But I'm jumping ahead. But yeah, that's what made me want to talk about The Walking Dead. Because I was just like, Rick and Shane were so interesting. I've always been like, if I was Lori, we'd have worked it out. I'd have Rick and Shane. But then I was like, but did Shane want Lori? Or did Shane want Rick? So, okay. Here are my thoughts. Here's my thought process. First, it went from Rick, Lori, and Shane, boom, boom, boom. We could have had it all. To Shane being with Lori because he's obsessed with Lori. Like, he loves Lori. He's obsessed with her. He loves her so much. To thinking that, oh, no, Shane is in love with Rick. So the only way he can be close to Rick is through Lori. Like, maybe we could be a throuple. Then I had to use my big girl brain and think, no. Also, all of this is nothing but fan theory, nothing but me being a silly, goofy girl. Shane is obsessed with Rick, and he used Lori as a means of becoming more like Rick. Because as soon as Rick was out the picture, he was like, I'm your daddy, I'm your husband. I'm the leader of this group. There are so many things, there are so many thoughts that my thoughts are racing because I've been thinking about this for weeks. I've been working on this, another podcast idea. Okay, but yeah. So, Shane is obsessed with Rick in a jealous way, not a romantic way. It comes off a little like, oh, maybe he wants Rick for himself, when really he knows he could never be the man that Rick is, and he is obsessed with who Rick is and what Rick represents as a man. Shane is very like classically toxic masculine, and Rick is like not too much better, but he's just a little more gentle. He's a little more gentle, a little more generous. He's just a little softer in his masculinity than Shane is. And that seems to draw people in. He's also like a people person, even though he takes death wherever he goes. Who said he was a plague? Can't remember, what was it, the governor? Somebody said Rick was a plague, and I'm like, honestly, outside of him being like, oh, he's a main character, so there has to be drama following him because it's a show. If we're just in the reality of The Walking Dead, the universe of The Walking Dead, baby, y'all should shot Rick. Everywhere he go, he tearing something up. But that's that's for another episode. Okay, everywhere he go, he tearing something up. Is so crazy. And I meant it when I said it. Yeah, so take it back to the pilot episode. Rick and Shane are in the car and they're discussing women and relationships, and they speak about relationships so differently. My best friend didn't want to watch the show initially because of Shane and how he spoke about these nameless, faceless girlfriends that can't turn off the light apparently. Because he did just come out very like, okay, I guess I need to watch myself around you. Like he just came off like, yeah, you a cop. Can't trust that guy. And so he's like, yeah, women are the worst. I hate women. I'm Shane. And Rick is like, my wife says I don't talk enough. And it's so funny because Shane is just sitting there complaining about the women in his life and how they get upset with him because he's so reasonable. He just wants you to turn the light off. And if he would turn the light off, maybe global warming wouldn't be so bad. He's just a reasonable, chill guy, you know? And then he turns to Rick and is like, but how's your loving marriage going? Immediately drawing comparisons. And it's just like, Shane, you could have talked about anything. But you had to talk to Rick about his wife and his child and their lovely home they have together. And you know he don't be fighting with his wife. Y'all are partners. You've known each other since high school. If he was fighting with his wife, you would know that. But you just couldn't help but compare yourself to Rick. It's like a compulsion for him. Oh, I'm having a blast already. And yeah, Rick is like, oh my God, Lori says I don't talk enough. She says I'm withholding. He didn't say withholding, but that's what he's saying. She says I'm withholding and I don't express myself enough. Which honestly, Lori, I understand. Yeah, he just had to be like, oh, let's hear about your lovely marriage. Okay, then Rick gets shot. Dun dun dun. And it's very dramatic. It's very like, oh my God, my friend is hurt. My partner is hurt. What am I going to do? Get him to the hospital. Leon, get them on Leon, get him on the horn, tell him there's an officer down. I just watched these episodes yesterday, so it's like, and I've been watching them for like a decade. So it's just like very fresh in my brain. But yeah, he's like, Leon, you tell him to get an ambulance down here right now. There's an officer down. And it's very dramatic and very scary because like, y'all do need better vests. Like he hit you right up under your arm. That's not safe. You need like better armor, whatever. But yeah, and then, you know, we cut and there are things happening. And I just thought it was interesting that out of all the things Rick remembers from him being in his like medically induced coma, the thing that he remembers right before he wakes up is Shane coming to visit him and leaving him flowers. I just think that's very interesting. And I was like, And my best friend was like, Lori and Carl must have been super boring. And I'm like, honestly, you don't remember your wife and child coming to see you, but you remember your partner, your friend. You remember him coming to see you and leave you flowers? Okay, girl. That's the first thing you think about right before you wake up from this coma because there's no more medicine getting into your system because the world has ended. He brought you back to the land of the living, girl. So then we're going to go over to Shane. So Shane is with a group. Also, something I thought about. What was that group like before Rick got there? Shane, Merle, Durrell, which is how you say it. That's how Norma Reedus said you say it. Durrell. 3 of the worst white men you've ever seen, right? Like, it doesn't look like a good time. It just looks like danger. Like, if I were, I think his name was Theodore. I don't like calling him T-Dog. If I were Theodore and Jackie, I'd have got up out of Dodge. Oh, and Ed? Shane, Merle, Durrell, and Ed. Baby, I gotta go. Y'all look like them people in the pickup trucks. I gotta get up out of here. Y'all look so unsafe. I'm good. what was that group like before Rick got there? Because Rick got them together real fast. He was like, hey, ain't no more N-words. Which I was like, I don't like Andrew Clutterbuck and his British tail saying the N-word with a hard R. Hated that whole lot. I'm like, he could have gotten his point across without saying it that hard. There was another way to do that, but whatever. It's, again, over a decade old, so whatever. What was that group like before Rick got there? Because I cannot like thinking about them at the fires when Rick first got there and everybody's at their little campfire and Ed has Carol and Sophia all separated from the group and, you know, isolated because he's an abuser. So he's like isolated them from the group and Shane is like, hey, need to get that fire down. You're going to draw walkers. And he's like, first of all, I don't listen to you. He said, girl, nobody care about what you talking about. Like, Shane could be a leader, but in like the worst way. I also have thoughts. This episode is more about Shane than Rick and Shane, but it's still getting to Rick and Shane because, you know, they're two sides. Nah, they're two different coins. Yeah, they two different coins. Because if Rick had been a little more like Shane, some of them folks wouldn't have died, is what I have to say. Yeah, if Rick had been a little more like Shane, there would have been a few less deaths. Or if Shane had just been there. I wish Shane could have stayed on the show, but he was so far gone by the time he died. It was just like, he really can't come back from any of this. Like, thinking about him being in the woods and having Rick in his sights. Girl, you want to take his place so bad. And it's so scary. It's so sad. Because Shane has such great leadership qualities, but he could never just accept himself for who he was. It was like he was trying to live up to this standard that Rick had set, but he didn't set it for Shane. He set it for himself. He was never trying to make Shane into anything that he wasn't. But Shane was just like, I gotta be better. While still, so like, okay, we're at the camps and everything, and Shane is kind of the de facto leader, I guess, because he told them he used to work for the sheriff's department, and people are, listening to him enough. But as soon as Rick comes back, he just slipped right back. He just slipped right back into that deputy role and just gave leadership to Rick. And you could tell he was struggling with it because he calling the shots and having a wife and son, soon to be daughter. He liked all that. He liked the power that came with it because he already had some power because he worked for the sheriff's department. But now he's the head person in charge. And Rick just came in and messed all that up. But he was okay with it because that's been their dynamic the whole time. Especially knowing they went to high school together. And when Rick talks about his past, he's like, oh, me and Lori. And our past, and we dated, and da-da-da-da-da. And Shane left school, stole a car, vandalized the car, came back to school. They had different lives. They ended up in essentially the same place, but they had different lives growing up. Because I've always wondered, Shane, what's going on with your family? We find out about Rick's family in The Ones Who Live. I have to do an episode on The Ones Who Live. We found out about his family in The Ones Who Live, which was really interesting, but we really never get anything on Shane and his upbringing and how he ended up acting like he acts and why he was so ready to always be the number two and never really put himself out there to be a leader for an extended period of time. And also I wonder what would have happened to the group if Rick had never come. Rick really did die in the hospital, what would have happened to that group? Him and Lori would have just stayed together. He would have raised Carl. Let's just say all the CDC stuff still happens. They find Herschel and them. I'll say 7 times out of 10, he is threatening to kill Herschel. And is like, I'll take all this shit. The barn, your house, your horses. I'll take all this shit. And what you gonna do about it? Also, Shane, this really is just a Shane episode. Sorry. I'm gonna get back into the obsession thing because that's such a fun theory for me. The Ed of it all, first of all, ain't no way. If we being freaking washerwomen and we off beating shirts against rocks in a quarry, and I see my friend's husband threatening to beat her. Hello, blunt force trauma to the back of the head. Baby, the world has ended. You are dead. It's 4 of us, or I'm going to say 3, because Carol is a victim of abuse. She's not in fight or flight. She's in freeze. The 3 of us, Jackie, who was it? Jackie, Andrea, and Amy, blunt force trauma to the back of the head. You're dead, buddy. Ain't no abusive marriages. What do you mean? And then, because we all have different reactions to things, when Shane, that fuck him up. When he beat him up, when he beat him down, I'd have been like, oh my God, Shane, are you okay? Mind you, he barely broke a sweat. I'd have been like, oh my God, Shane, are you okay? Do you need, I can bandage your knuckles. Are you okay? Because what do you mean? Also, kill him. What are we going to do? Call the police? Kill him. He was going to beat his wife. He threatened to knock down Andrea, and he told Carol in front of them, if you don't do it now, you're going to regret it later. They should have let Shane kill him outright. When nobody had missed Ed, they didn't miss him once he was dead. But I've been thinking about that for years. It's 3 of us and 1 Ed. Girl, in a quarry. He fell. He had an accident. Oh, we gotta do a coroner's report? No, there is none. He's dead. Burn him with the rest of the bodies. Like, get out of here. But y'all be like, oh my gosh, Shane, you saved the day. You're such a good man, Shane. I'd have been in his face because Ed was really the worst. Oh my God. I was so glad when he died, Lord. Anyway, like I said, we all have different reactions to things, but I definitely would have been in Shane's face, sniggling and giggling. Like, oh my God, you are so strong. You are such a protector. You're such a protector. You really care about us. When he was literally just mad that Lori was like, don't you talk to me and my son ever again. Like, but he did hate Ed. He did freaking hate that guy. Which is valid. Like, no one liked him, including himself. I'm like, a man that acts like that, you don't love yourself. If you did, you wouldn't act like that. Or maybe you would. But back to Rick and Shane. But talking about Lori, yeah, she was like, you lied. You told me my husband was dead. And he was like, ooh, first of all, I thought he was dead. He was like, I put my head to his chest and I listened for a heartbeat and I didn't hear one. He said I couldn't, like, the heart monitor wasn't working. Like, I couldn't hear. I thought he was dead. I closed the door, barred the door so no one could hurt him. And I came and saved you because that's what he would have wanted me to do. Which is true. That's completely true. He definitely was thinking about Rick when he went and got Lori and Carl. Which also makes me be like, huh. You didn't have a nameless, faceless girlfriend that you wanted to save? You just went straight for your best friend's wife and child? Which, like, makes sense, right? I would want that. Like, my spouse and child. That, like, go get my spouse and child while I'm in this medically induced coma. And it's a zombie apocalypse. But, like, you didn't also have a girlfriend? Like, were you between girlfriends? And he was so wrapped up. Him and Lori was just reckless. And everybody at that camp has so much discretion and respect. And I'ma stay out of it-ness. Because when Rick came back, I'd have been like, I'd be like, oh, Lori, who is this? Oh, that's your husband. Okay, girl. He said that's his brother. They best friends. All right. Okay, Lori, I see how you get down. Keep it in the family, huh? Because, girl, what do you mean you were asleep with your best friend's husband because you thought your husband was dead? What do you mean you were asleep with your husband's best friend because you thought your husband was dead? But honestly, like, it makes sense. Like, the world ended. You need some comfort. You know Shane. He's not some random. You met on the side of the highway. And then he helped you rescue these two sisters. And he's older than you, but you end up getting married and starting a society with him. I am talking about Parable of the Sower. I am fully describing one of the relationships in Parable of the Sower because that book is really good. But yeah, he's just like a guy that she's known for years. I wonder how old she and Rick were when they got married, because they always were like, oh, we got married so young, we got married so young. So I was like, did you go to high school? Did you go to high school with him and Shane? Or like, what's the deal with all that? Like, were y'all high school sweethearts? If I found out that Shane has been pining for Lori since high school, I think I'd honestly pass out. Like, that would be a little too much for me. Or that he's been pining for Rick since high school, and Lori has just been like, they're along for the ride. And I kind of like to believe that. Okay, but yes, back to my obsession theory that I keep getting off a track from. Yeah, I truly believe that he is obsessed with Rick and who Rick is and how people respond to Rick and how people respect Rick and people really listen to what Rick says, even without knowing him. Because like I said, as soon as he came into the camp, thinking about like his first interaction with Carol, she had washed out his uniform or whatever clothes he had on. He was like, that's very kind of you. And just very, like I said, very gentle, very generous. Also, one of the key things that separates a Rick from a Shane, Merle Dixon. We know for a fact because Shane said it. Shane would have never gone back for Merle. But also, he probably would have killed Merle. Like, think about, and it's so crazy. Shane made such a large impact on that show and how I watched the show and on Rick and who Rick becomes as a character, because Rick has some Shane-isms. He does. And I love it because they were best friends for years. And as a person who's been best friends with her best friend for years, yeah, y'all pick up some things along the way. You definitely pick up some mannerisms from each other, some behaviors from one another, especially when you know each other as children. Because if you're in high school, you're a child. And I don't mean that in like a, oh, high schoolers are so... No. I mean, stop adultifying high schoolers. They're literally children. There are people, I'm 33, there are people my age, they're like, she 18, she grown. She's 17, she grown. Are you actually stupid? Do you not remember being 17 and 18? You were a child. And it's so messed up that we as a society will really be like, that 18-year-old is an adult. Oh my God, no they're not. No they're not. That's a baby. They're going through so many different things and they still need so much guidance because they're still doing these things for the very first time ever. That is a child. Stop adultifying teenagers. It's super weird. It's super weird. I don't like it. It's like, do they know better than to do certain things? Absolutely. But like, y'all putting it... I don't care. I'm going to get on my soapbox. You putting your kids out at 18. Jail. Prison. Hell. Why are you putting that child out? Be serious. I don't like that. Also, y'all don't give your kids the skills that they need to survive in the world. They don't know how to talk to people. They don't know how to do anything. And it's your fault. It is completely on you, parent. I just got mad. I just got so annoyed because I see it so often when they talk about like the little boys who be keeping up all this trouble. And it's like, where your mom and your daddy? Like, what are they doing? Every little boy who is out here keeping up trouble does not have, oh, his mother is just trying her hardest and she's doing her best and his dad is really working with them. No, y'all not. You having kids and just having them. Okay, I'm done. If Rick, Shane, and Lori have known each other since high school, I need a prequel. I don't. Oh, my best friend watched Fear the Walking Dead. She told me, and usually we bond over shows. She'll be like, I'm watching this, and I'll be like, oh, okay, I'm going to watch it with you, or vice versa. And she said, Sierra, don't watch it. I said, oh, okay. You don't want to bond? And she was like, not over this. She said, because I'm not going to finish it. And I was like, you know what, baby, you're right. That's a dime friend. I'm the mom friend. I listen to what she say. She listen to what I say. I follow directions. She told me not to watch it. Guess what I ain't watched? Fear the Walking Dead. But I want a prequel of The Walking Dead where they're in high school and Shane is just like not riding on his coattails, but just kind of like everything he does is to impress Rick. So like him talking about like, oh, I'm dating an older woman, which prison, jail, hell, 30-something-year-old messing around with a teenager. And ma'am, you go to prison. All of that is to just be like cool and to impress Rick. Because all he wants to do is impress Rick. Because he has a horrible relationship with his daddy. And Rick is a positive male influence in his life. Hate that for him. But yes, I do believe that Shane is obsessed with Rick. Let's go over these notes, shall we? Also, a fun little life update. I've been making lock screens of Beyonce for my phone. Oh, I forgot. See, this is why I took notes. When Rick came to the group, Shane took watch that night. He said, I can't even sleep. He said, my friend back, I can't even sleep. But I also was wondering, I don't think he was. I don't know. Was Shane spending the night in Lori's tent? And honestly, by spending the night, I mean sleeping with her in that tent. Because when Rick got ready to be grown, he looked over at Carl like, isn't Carl going to wake up? And she was like, he won't hear or he won't wake up, something like that. And I'd have been like, how the hell do you know what he won't do? Lori, how do you know what he won't do? But when she told Rick she was pregnant, he was like, you got anything else you want to say? And she was like, me and Shane. And he was like, I knew. Of course I knew. You thought I was dead. And it was just a very crazy moment, like the way the camera zoomed in on her face, like, girl, you had not told that man that you was sleeping with his best friend yet. And then when she told him, he was like, girl, no. He said, look at you sweating, stressed out. I know you was sleeping with him. You thought you could keep that from me? Yeah, it was just very... But yeah, I thought that was very interesting. He was just up there contemplating his life. He was like, what am I going to do now? And there are points where Shane starts pulling away from Rick and Lori. He starts pulling away from Lori first. Because Lori put up a boundary between them. She was like, you told me my husband died. He's not freaking dead. Oh my God. But then he tries to full on assault her. Because I'll be like, oh my God, I love Shane. He's such an interesting character. He tried to assault that lady when they were at the CDC. And it's like, scratching my head. Hey man, that's not cool. Like what? Also, Lori, you're different than me. I'd be like, Rick, kill him. I'd be like, Rick, kill him. He tried to assault me. Yeah, we were sleeping together, but we broke up. And even if we were still sleeping together, no means no. He tried to assault me, and we're in a lawless world. So kill him. But yeah, so their relationship kind of fell apart. Even though she would still be going to him being like, you gotta talk to Rick about this. You told me not to talk to you or your school shooter son ever again. So what are we talking about? What are we talking about, Lauren? Sounding crazy. Oh, another thing that I noticed. This was more of my like romantic angle. When Carl got shot and Rick came out the house to meet Shane and be like, he's hurt, Shane. And Shane wiped the blood from Rick's face. Oh my God. Like, are you serious? Are you serious? It was just very like, but I also compared him to Judas for some reason. I can't remember why. But I was just like, But it was just very like, the boys love each other. And it's like, Sierra, stop. He doesn't love him romantically. He's obsessed with him and wants to be him. Those are two different things that you should not conflate. And it's like, right, absolutely. I will not conflate the two. They are two separate things. But I do think he loves Shay. I think he loves Rick a little bit. And I think he a whole lot of it wants to be him. I think he's going through, I don't know if I want to be Rick or be with Rick. And I thought about this in a real life situation. Not me, of course. I'm regular and normal. And people are just like fine with who I am. There was a YouTuber, and she had a family vlogging channel, and then the channel kind of went away, and it came out that her husband cheated on her with one of her subscribers. And it was just like, wow, you must be so jealous of your wife to cheat on her with a woman that's trying to emulate her. Like, you cheated on her with a woman that goes to her to figure out how to be more beautiful? Huh. You must be really jealous of her. Especially because she was the primary breadwinner. She was the face of the family. The kids looked just like her. Like, she was the face of the family. And yeah, like, that's jealousy. Jealousy of how you doing a whole lot. But yeah, I thought about that, thinking about Ricochet, and I'm like, oh, you slept with his wife. And I truly believe that it had more to do with Rick than Lori. I don't think he was just so obsessed with Lori. I honestly, after watching the show a billion times and convincing myself, I don't think he really was that into Lori like that. To where he's like, yeah, I'm going to risk hiding hair for this woman. He's just like, I'm Rick now. I'm your daddy now. Like, even the way he acted with Carl was very fatherly. Like, very fun-loving, footloose, fancy-free. And then being like, I am the authority. You listen to me. And Carl fell right into that. Which makes sense because he was taking the role of his father when he had gone off to like play with him in the quarry and catch frogs, which was really just a distraction for Carl, which was really sweet of Shane. Shane. This is pre-assault attempt Shane. It was very cute, very sweet. And Laura was like, I told you not to leave Dale's sight. I told you to stand right by me. Also, Got7 had to come back. It was great. I loved it. I love my boys. And he was like, but Shane said it was okay. And she was like, who the fuck is Shane? She really was like, who is Shane? I'm your mother. I don't care what Shane said, and neither should you. But yeah, there was, I believe, not to get to Sierra, the spirit of jealousy. When I say you can take the girl out the church. But yeah, I stopped recording last night, and this is me in the morning. Hi. Also, somehow I forgot to say Happy Black History Month. How did I forget? Probably because this is a very random episode to upload during Black History Month, but I'm Black. And I am making this from my very Black perspective. And yeah, Happy Black History Month, Black people. I love you. I love you, Black people. But yeah. Okay, what I want to talk about now is just a little bit, and then I'm gonna wrap this up because I've been 45 minutes is crazy, and I still had to edit this because, like I said, this is partially Shane being obsessed with Rick, partially just Shane because he was an interesting character. What would have happened if Shane had lived? If Shane and Rick had somehow gotten past, I had you in my sights, I broke that boy's neck so I could frame him for your murder, and I said, all right, Blue Lives. What would have happened if they could have gotten past all of that? A few things. Again, I've been thinking about this for years. Well, for one, that big horde of walkers wouldn't have come to the farm because the thing that alerted the walkers was Carl shooting Walker Shane. So none of that would have happened if there's no Walker Shane to shoot. They still would have just been on the farm. Which is why we need inciting incidents. That's why we need Shane to die and turn, because they don't know at this point that when you die, you have to shoot the person in the head or destroy the brain or whatever, so they don't turn. They don't know that right now. Let's just say, because that horde was huge, that herd was humongous. So let's just say things happen. The herd somehow still gets to the farm. They lose the farm, end up going to the prison. I can tell you now, Shane would have been like, bang, 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 bang. All that talking, Rick loved to talk. Rick loved to try and be rational and sensible. All that talking would not have happened. What were their names? Andrew and the other man would have been dead. He wouldn't have killed the other 3 good prisoners. He'd have been like, he would have been like, Rick, y'all stay over there and we'll stay over here. Bury your dead, because he has killed the 2 that would have given them trouble. And Rick would have been like, hey, just checking in. You know that you can't just kill people, right? Shane would have been like, they're a threat, Rick. We gotta protect Lori and the baby. And it's like, honestly, Rick, like, Lori wasn't gonna make it, period. You gotta have a C-section in a zombie apocalypse. Sister, you're not gonna make it. But like, Rick and Shane would have been able to be there for her, and she would have had like a better chance. Because like, honestly, maybe she could have made it. Like Herschel did perform surgery on Carl. Because, like, we don't see it, but, which is why it doesn't stick out in my mind like that. Like, yeah, he had to get the breathing device so he could perform surgery on Carl because he had internal bleeding. So, like, if you were able to open him up, although that's different, he was opening him up and sewing him back up and sewing him back up. A C-section, it's a whole lot of opening. It's a whole lot of opening going on. She would have had a better chance, though, than being in a random, like, it was like a furnace room. She would have had a way better chance doing things like they had planned on doing than she ended up having. So, like, maybe Lori would have lived. Maybe Lori would have lived. And then Rick wouldn't have lost his mind with grief. So then when Sasha and her brother and their group came along, he probably would have just accepted them. But then they would have ended up having to kill that daddy from that group because he was like, hey, we can take their stuff. And Tariq, that's his name, Tariq, was like, so we're not going to do that. I feel like Shane would have just kept getting worse and worse, but it still would have been for, like, the betterment of the group. Like, so many things happen because Rick is like, we don't kill people. Because of the first time he decided to kill people, Out of all the times that Rick, I had the soundtrack, but I'm gonna just say this is with Negan. When I say, I'm like, oh, now you're an assassin, now you're just killing people. Where was all that energy for the governor? Because now I thought about this. The governor, all that stuff that happened with the governor, baby, wouldn't have happened. He'd be like, oh my God, Andrea, girl, we've been looking for you. They probably also would have looked for Andrea because he was getting attached to Andrea. He was actively trying to attach himself to Andrea because he was being pushed away from Lori and Rick. And Rick. He was actively trying to attach himself to Andrea. So he definitely would have been looking for Andrea. And even if he didn't find her out in the wild, when he found her, he'd have been like, oh my God, real recognize real and crazy recognize crazy. He'd have met that governor and been like, bang, bang, bang. He would have killed him off rip. Now, would him and Michonne would they have butt heads? Absolutely. Michonne was way too much of a real one for Shane to have dealt with. Just like with Daryl, that's another thing I want to talk about. The Rick and Daryl relationship would not have turned into what it turned into because he is very protective of their friendship. Because when they were arguing about the walkers in the barn and this before they let the walkers out of the barn, and Shane and Daryl are going at it, and Rick kind of held Daryl back because, they're in agreement. They're like, no, we still have to look for Sophia. Shane immediately went on to a personal attack. And we've never known Shane and Daryl to have problems. And again, this is my little brain. It's because Rick and Daryl were on the same side and he was the odd man out just in that situation. And you see how he reacted to that? He didn't like it. He said, first of all, you got geek ears around your neck looking all methed out. First of all, rude. Addiction is a disease. Also, Daryl wasn't on it. Not too much. He immediately went on the personal attack and was just being purely emotional in that moment. He was no longer thinking logically. He was just like, so that's your boy? That's your friend? Because all that, Rick and Daryl, he's my brother. He's my brother. He's my friend. He's my blood. Shane would not have let all that happen. So I honestly think at some point the group would have started to splinter because Carol was going with Daryl. All the times that she tried to keep him from leaving, all the times she tried to keep him from hurting himself in the first two, she was going with Daryl, period. But yeah, I think a lot more of them would have lived, but I don't think the group would have stayed together like it did because they would have been like, hey, Shane is kind of scary. They respected Rick more than they feared him, and they feared Shane more than they respected him. Because he definitely led with an iron fist. Just very interesting things to think about in the Walking Dead universe. I wish there was what's that MCU show? What If? I wish there was a what if for the Walking Dead. And there had been an exploration into what would have happened if Shane had lived. Because like I said, if I don't know nothing else, that governor, like I said, all that stuff that happened would not have happened. They'd have been like, we got a prison. We got a town. We're going to turn the prison into this is going to be a school or something. They're all moving, especially because their group wasn't big. They easily could have moved into what's it called? Woodbury? Yeah. Yeah, they'd have moved into Woodbury, got a few houses, and just been living. Because again, this is in the universe of The Walking Dead, not looking at The Walking Dead as like a TV show where there has to be drama, there has to be something going on. If Shane had lived, he'd have been like, so Rick's the governor now, and Rick would have been like, no, I'm not. Rick would have been like, oh my God, girl, be normal. Like, you're such a henchman. It's like, I'm going to take the power that you don't want while still letting you be the leader. I'm be the muscle and a little bit of the authority. It's very crazy. Their dynamic is just very, very interesting to me. And yeah, I just want to yap about that for a minute. But yeah, I do believe, let me bring this back to the first point. I do honestly believe that Shane was obsessed with Rick, and that it came out in his relationship with Lori and how he handled a lot of things that were going on. And I also think that Shane was just a very, very interesting character, and I wish he could have stuck around a little bit longer. But like I said, a lot of things that happened would not have happened if Shane had still been there. Even if they ended up at the prison, even if they ended up getting separated, and Terminus, girl. But okay, I'm gonna wrap it up here. Those are just my thoughts, the things I've been thinking for years. Good Lord. It feels good to get that off my chest. Also, I'm really enjoying my rewatch of The Walking Dead. It's such a good show, man. Like, also apparently now people are like, oh, season 2 is actually good. Shut up. You weren't there when people were like, season 2 is boring because y'all don't like character development. We always want to blame TikTok. We want to blame Netflix for people not having great attention spans, for not... No. Y'all didn't like season 2 of The Walking Dead because it, quote unquote, wasn't exciting. It was, quote unquote, boring. Get out my face. You don't get to like it now. It was so good because there was so much character development. First of all, season 1 was literally only 6 episodes. Gross. Yuck. Season 2 was so good. Also, I really love how they used to introduce us to new characters. Like getting to the farm and all of Herschel's family coming out on the porch. Or when we meet Rosita and Abraham and them, and Rosita has her pigtail, and she just looks like a video game character. Like the pigtails with the hat with the little bitty, completely unrealistic shorts and the gun on her holster. Like, it was just, even how we met Michonne, the way they introduced characters was so good and felt so cinematic. Like, this is a TV show and everything would feel so big and so grand and so important, and like everything really carried weight. And I will only say nice things because I do love The Walking Dead. I do love The Walking Dead up to a certain point, and then I stop watching and start over or watch something else because I get upset about the things that are happening that shouldn't be happening. But I won't get into that. But okay, I'm wrapping it up. I'm done. 61 minutes is crazy. I'm gonna edit this down to probably like 40 something, 50 something more. But yeah, I hope y'all are good. I've missed doing this. This was really fun. I made the thumbnail weeks ago when I decided that I was going to do this. Yeah, I hope y'all are good, taking care of yourselves, taking care of your mental health. I also did this because we love lighthearted things and things that don't really matter in the grand scheme. Like, you're going to listen to me talk, like you've listened to me talk about this man being obsessed with this other man from this show that came out over a decade ago. Like, that's fun. It's fun. It's silly. It's goofy. We need stuff to be fun, silly, and goofy. And yeah. So I hope y'all are good. Like I said, taking care of yourselves, taking care of your loved ones. See y'all in the next one. Bye.